This massive, large man is Nicholas Tartaglione. Nicholas Tartaglione is being met with 4 people, Chester, New York, in a bar called the Liquid Lounge. That bar was owned by Nicholas's brother. Now, Nicholas's was a former cop. Those 4 people interacting with that former cop on that day were never seen again. The next time those 4 people were seen were bodies buried on his property. It was called a gang-style killing because apparently cocaine was involved in that particular crime. His neighbor said it smelled like death. Why am I talking about Nicholas? The notable quality of Nicholas, beyond the fact that he potentially accused of murdering 4 people and burying them in his yard, is that he was also the individual that was in Epstein's cell the night that Epstein tried to off himself. And he was found on the ground with marks around his neck. And that former cop saying, I have no idea what happened. I won't involve. I have no idea what happened. That cop now has put a letter out from his lawyer. And he's put a letter out saying, my client is concerned that his safety is in jeopardy and that there is information that is potentially damaging to the prison, and they are telling me to shut up, stop complaining, and keep your mouth shut. Let's get demonetized. Let's talk about some Epstein. Welcome to the Soapbox. My name is Jamarl Thomas. This is the Progressive Soapbox. Guys, if you like this content, dig this content, find yourself coming back to this channel often, please like this video, share this video, and of course, subscribe. Also, hit the notification bell. I do shows all the time. I mean, after all, it's like 11:30 at night. Soapbox After Dark. There were 1 or 2 shows that I needed to get to, or that at the very least I wanted to cross off my list. This was one of the interesting ones that I saw. It was like, oh my God. There's another one associated with Epstein also that I'm going to put it in another video that is going to get entirely demonetized. Talking about Epstein, and his accusers, and some of the just the weird stuff, like him telling people he has powerful friends, and that if you don't fall in line, those powerful friends will ruin you. That type of stuff will ruin you. Taking the passport. One woman said she was aged out of the type of people that Epstein liked, at which point he got her to get other women. That stuff is some wild stuff, man. Extremely wild stuff. But in this very particular case, I want to talk about Nicholas Tartaglione. And I'm pronouncing his name miserably, and I apologize for pronouncing his name miserably. But former cop, bodies buried in the backyard or something. Is concerned. Now, the biggest thing, people have issues with this case because this case comes across as if it is a bit dicey, and that is to put it mildly. Everything from the soft charge that he got the first time around. And by the way, the women who are talking are women who were getting abused while he was supposed to be serving a prison sentence and was out on, work release. This case is weird. And now you have a situation where 2 days before he died, he settles his will. And all of the measures or mechanisms that was supposed to be in place to keep an individual alive failed. They failed. He had decided either to commit suicide or knew what was coming. The only will out 2 days is a massive coincidence. Everything fails. The security guard or the psychiatrist doesn't approve him leaving out of suicide watch. He doesn't have an inmate in with him when he's supposed to have an inmate with him. Guards aren't walking by to check on him every 30 minutes. All of the systems that were supposed to keep that man alive failed. And I don't care if he wanted to die. I wanted him alive. And the state supposedly wanted him alive. all of it failed. How? How does all that fail? Is that magnificent incompetence? Or is incompetence being used to shield this notion of people looking the other way? I'm not so conspiratorial to believe that uber wealthy paid this person or that person and so forth. Is it possible? Yeah, of course it's possible. But it's just as possible as people wanted that pedophile dead and were willing to look the other way while it happened. I don't know. What I do know is this. His cellmate, the guy who's there the first time around, who said, I didn't have anything to do with the situation to which he was being trying to off himself. And, I asked this very basic question of, if a man is trying to commit suicide and you're in the room with him, how are you entirely unaware of the fact that the guy is trying to commit suicide? Even if you were trying to sleep, are you sleeping that hard where the guy can rig up something where he's trying to off himself? Like, this seems weird on its face. So when he tells his lawyer at potentially damaging information, and I feel unsafe at this prison, well, I listen to that. He could be lying, but he also could be telling the truth. And that's kind of the issue with this case. This entire case has been strange and weird. So when the guy who was a witness, ideally, he was in the same goddamn cell with the guy who was trying to off himself. The guy who was a witness to it is saying, I need to get out of this prison. They're going to off me. They're going to kill me. They're going to look the other way. Something's going to happen to me. I'm terrified. The guards are threatening me. Question is why? Why are they threatening you? The issue is the phraseology. Potentially damaging information. Why is it potentially damaging? If it was something that you knew, gross incompetence, well, that wouldn't be potentially damaging. That would be damaging. If it was somebody, I heard whispers in the prison that said, people were going to look the other way. Well, that's not potentially damaging. That's damaging. I hope you get my point. There's a difference between, and I know maybe I'm focusing too much on the wording, but it's a political document. It was his lawyer that wrote it. The words matter. Saying potentially didn't need to be there. The lawyer added that term potentially, which makes me think that some of this is slightly dodgy. But again, people are different. Phraseology is different. It's either damaging or it's not. This notion of potentially doesn't really apply, and it just sounds weird. I'm going to read to you the document, essentially what the lawyer said. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm going to read to you what the lawyer said. But this case is so bizarre that so many things can be true. It's hard to know where this goes. It's possible he wants to get out of prison because the prison sucks. Apparently they were complaining about vermin and rats and those type of things. And one of the reasons why Epstein was staying 12 hours with his lawyer. Also, it's something to be said that if that is your life, after being a millionaire, nearly a billionaire, maybe you would try to off yourself. That is a mighty high fall. Like, to go from, I'm jet setting to my pedophile island where I have any luxury that I want. I get 5 massages a day and I get sex 20 times a day or whatever. To, I'm in a prison cell with a cop that just murdered multiple people, potentially, he's accused of. And this is my life from here on out. This is my life. In perpetuity. Indefinitely. Would that be enough to off yourself? Yes. But the answer or the question becomes, how did he do it? Is it gross incompetence, where these people were just comically incompetent and everything else is a coincidence? Or is incompetence being used to hide intention? Is incompetence being used to hide intention? I like the way that sounds, because that's potentially true. This is ABC 7. He wrote that the guards in the facility have told him to shut up, stop talking, and stop complaining. This is a letter from Tartaglione's attorney. He alleged that the correctional officers know that his client has information that is potentially damaging to the staff at MCC. That's what's being put forth. The clear message Mr. Tartaglione has received is that if he conveys information about the facility or about the recent suicide, there will be a price to pay. His attorney, Bruce Bartlett, wrote the judge, the continuing and seemingly unresolvable problems that the conditions of Mr. Tartaglione's confinement, coupled with the unfortunate attempted suicide by a cellmate, to which Mr. Tartaglione is a critical witness, and the successful suicide of that same person, makes his continued detention at MCC inappropriate. And again, in a letter to the court, Tartaglione's attorney alleged that the correction officers know that his client has information that is potentially very damaging to the staff at MCC. A few things that are strange. Why are you connecting the suicide of Epstein? Like, why are you adding that? What does that have to do with it? Now, understand what I mean. He's saying, my client has potential information. The guards are telling me to shut up. Okay, fair enough. Why are the guards telling you to shut up? What is the potentially damaging information? And I guess my point is, a connection is being made to Epstein and then Epstein's suicide. Why? If Epstein tried to commit suicide, fair enough. And if there was a certain degree of gross negligence in him trying to commit suicide from the standpoint of the prison, fair enough. But what does that have to do with you? Like, did you see him do that? Did you watch him do that? Did you see Epstein try to string himself up? Did you assist Epstein in trying to off himself? What is it? What is the link between what you know and Epstein? And my issue here is the last part. And the successful suicide of the same person makes this detention inappropriate. Why? What does the fact that Epstein was able to off himself have to do with you? That's why I keep bringing up Epstein. Meaning, if you were in a prison cell with a guy who tried to commit suicide, even if you were trying to sleep, wouldn't you at the very least wake up, know that the person was trying to commit suicide, even if you were a heavy sleeper? Is Epstein trying to off himself so silently that he doesn't whimper in the least when he's trying to bring himself up? This document just said you're a witness to it. This document that your lawyer wrote just said you were a witness. Right here. We're talking coupled with the unfortunate attempted suicide by a cellmate to which Tartaglione is a critical witness. So you weren't asleep. Because if you're asleep, you weren't a witness. Fair enough. What happened? Did you watch him try to commit suicide? Oh, this is fascinating. And then they attach it to and the successful suicide by the same person. Now, here's the thing. If your prison was so comically inept to allow one of the most high-profile prisoners in this country at this moment to off himself after a previous attempt where he tried to off himself, meaning it wasn't he did it and bam, it's done. It's he did it, he tried it, he failed at it, and then you let him do it again. If you're so comically inept as an institution to let somebody off himself, and the guy who's saying, look, I observed this guy trying to kill himself. While I was there, I was a witness, whatever that term means, witness. I mean, for all we know, in lawyer speak, witness could just mean he was asleep in the room while the guy was doing it. We don't know. Lawyers are, cagey figures. But you're saying you're a witness to it. And then you're saying, and the guy eventually did do it. Did you watch him try to do it? Did you watch him? Did you help him? Oh. But the secondary point, what do you know? And why does it apply to Epstein? And why does it matter that Epstein was able to commit suicide the second time? Is it something just more very basic? Because it could be. It could be very basic. It could be these guys are extremely inept. He hates this prison cell. They've complained about vermin and saying essentially the conditions at the prison are atrocious. It's prison. I mean, it's, but even within the context of prison, prisons can be atrocious. And they were complaining about it. Him and Epstein both were complaining about the conditions at the prison. Is it one of those things where the prison don't want him talking in general? Meaning, it's kind of like slaying cattle. You know, it's like, this is such a horrible process. We don't want people to see what takes place behind closed doors. Is it something that basic? Not so much that they off him, but more so is our conditions are horrible. And the last thing we want is the public to know about it. He wants to get out that prison. So he says, look, this guy tried to off himself from my prison cell and the guards are telling me to shut up. I need to go somewhere else. I don't feel safe. Is it possible that the guy who murdered all these people is just using Epstein as a get out of that prison cell? By the way, Tartaglione may be the first person that New York executes in like 60 years. But the execution thing has nothing to do with him getting out of that particular prison. That may happen regardless of what prison they're holding him in up until the point of trial. So I took that off the table in regards to motivation. But in a sense of motivation, maybe trying to get into a better prison is a motivation in and of itself in regards to saying the guards are telling me to shut up because I know something that may be potentially damaging, that type of stuff. This case is odd. And because this case is so odd, it's hard to take really too much off the table in the potentialities of what it could be. I would say this. I don't trust this guy as far as I can throw him. By the same token, everything else in this case has been so bizarre that I can't necessarily say that he's lying as an outright, meaning discounting what he has to say. And I don't doubt, per se, that that prison may be atrocious. Nor do I doubt that if they're complaining about it, the last thing those prison guards want is some kind of malfeasance on their part in the sense of that highest profile inmate dying. I hope you understand what I mean. Like, there's so much going on in this particular case that it's hard to know exactly what's going on. And in the sense of the prison guards, if they fucked up somewhere along the way, yeah, I would imagine they wouldn't want him talking about stuff and bringing up issues. Meaning the more that he complains and the more he talks about, the more of a spotlight that's drawn on that prison. And the last thing those guards want is that spotlight on that prison, especially since Epstein died in that prison. I don't know. Maybe he's telling the truth. Maybe he's lying. Maybe he's telling the truth. Maybe he's lying. Let's see, Krillin. Tartaglione was threatened by who? The Hawk? The Hawk did it. Yeah, he's huge. He's huge. Well, the Hawk did it. Yeah, he's huge. That's a massive man. Look at him. Like, this picture doesn't even show, like, his biceps. He's fucking massive. He's massive. There are pictures of him, like, kneeling beside the dog and whatnot. So, yeah. All right. I'm going to end this. Like, share. Like, share, subscribe. Thanks all. See you later, maybe. There's one more story that I wanted to do that I might hit before I leave. So.